Hello, welcome to Krachtwerken. Just quickly, if you hear specifically just to see a quick demo of the Behringer OD300 Overdrive Distortion, this is not entirely the right video for you. There are some sound samples and a little bit of a breakdown of the pedal further down in the video. Please check the timestamps down below if you want to skip this whole rant of mine, because it's coming. It's coming, right? So this video is specifically to address a couple of things and to revisit the Overdrive Distortion, and also talk about Behringer again for the 50th time. The reason this came about was because I made a video a couple of videos back. I'll link it below, where I suggest that people should stop hyping the Behringer pedals, and they should stop hyping them because, you know, they're not actually that good. Fair enough, they're dirt cheap. And in my opinion, for people who are buying at this price point, there are better options. And the point of the video wasn't just critical about Behringer, it was more about going some of the reasons why I say that, but also I suppose the video was not really to say don't buy Behringer pedals. The video was like, if you're buying at that price point, if you're that kind of person who needs to or wants to buy at that price point, there are alternatives. In my opinion, the alternatives are better than buying the Behringer. I also make a clear distinction between Behringer products in general and this range of plastic, essentially Boss copies. So right after that video, I decided to buy another one of them. One was because when I had this one before, the Overdrive Distortion pedal, I really liked the sound of it. It had all the problems that I discussed in the video, like it has this hiss both in on and off position. It introduces this weird hiss. It's not a 50 cycle or 60 cycle hum. It's not a mains hum or a ground hum. It is some sort of hiss. It sounds exactly the same as if you push a preamp too hard, and you get that shh sound. And to me, that makes the pedal inherently unusable for many applications, even if you're just a beginner. If you're just sitting at home jamming, you want to test out different pedals, you want to play around with some distortion and some effects, okay. The moment that you want to play live, that you want to record, even just record yourself at home, that hiss was way too prominent in the signal, and therefore, in my opinion, completely unusable. So if you wanted to buy at that price point, and this was my reasoning in the video, maybe it wasn't very clear, but at least at that price point, there are better options. They are not noisy, they're not hissy, they are true bypass, and therefore you don't have that accumulative problem. Let's say you've got 3 of these pedals that introduce hiss into your signal. I mean, that's 3 times the volume in hiss then, because you'll have hiss on hiss on hiss. And if you then have a compressor or distortion pedal behind that, or you're playing into a crunch channel or a distortion channel in your amp, that hiss is just going to amplify and amplify and amplify. That problem you don't have with the bypass pedal. Now, this is not an anti-bypass pedal at all video. You got to be so careful with everything you say in this whole guitar and pedal shit, because everybody just jumps on some sort of meh crap. Buffers are fine. Buffers are necessary in certain instances. But if your buffer is fucking noisy and you don't know how to make one, then don't put a buffer in there, basically. Anyway, so I had some comments on that video, and the one told me to shut the fuck up, because the pedals at that price point do what they're supposed to do. And obviously he's right, they kind of do what they're supposed to do at that price point. But again, there are pedals at that price point which do that better. So why buy the shittier one for the same price point? It makes fucking no sense, right? Second thing is that he's a classic YouTube commentator who tells me to shut the fuck up because he's hiding at home behind his keyboard. Yeah. Anyway, don't really care. Secondly, the other guy made a classic comment, which was Josh Scott of JHS Pedals said they're good, so they must be good. And I don't know what I'm talking about, and he knows everything about pedals, and therefore the pedals are good because he said they're good. Now, Josh Scott knows a lot more than I do, but I know enough too to know that these pedals at that price point, you can get better. You have better options if you need to buy at that price point than Behringer plastic pedals. End of fucking story. Secondly, is Josh Scott wasn't saying that they are good. He was saying that they're fine to use. If you want to buy them, buy them. And he gives some sound sample. He wasn't saying like, oh my god, I can't believe at 20 bucks this is the most amazing fucking thing. Why buy anything else? He said, these things are fine. Use them. They do what they're supposed to do. Right? Anyway. Some of the criticisms I have about the Behringer plastic range. Okay. So I had the Tube Monster as well, which was incredible, right? It's one of the best overdrive pedals, in my opinion. It really is. And they're 40 to 45 pounds. I have a video about that too. So again, this is not a flame Behringer. It's just about, here are some things about Behringer that people should take account of before they buy one. The Tube Monster I would recommend any time of the day. It is completely noiseless. It is true bypass. It sounds great. The tone, the volume, the gain, the volume, the whole tone stack is extremely pliable. So you can really dial in pretty much any crunch to high overdrive tone with that pedal. Absolutely genius. These ones, however, have, in my opinion, some very specific flaws. Why I wouldn't buy them. Number one, they're made of plastic. Now, I don't have a problem with the plastic side of things. I have a problem with the fact that you can buy aluminium enclosure ones with proper switches for the same price. So this is not about it being plastic. It's about, for this price point, you've got better alternatives. I don't mind the plastic. Unless, and I'm going to open this up later in the video because I want to see if the electronics are shielded, which I doubt they are. But I'm happy to eat my words. So from a shielding point of view, problem number one. Problem number two with the ones I had in the past that they introduced this really audible hiss. Now, some person says, oh, you know, some guitarists and gear freaks, they think they've got better hearing than dogs. No, this is a clear hiss. This is not like me picking up some fucking shit that doesn't exist because my psychological bias tells me that there's a problem because it's a plastic pedal. This is a clear hiss in all the pedals. There was basic construction issues, like the knobs were all kind of all over the place. They were skew, some were really loose, although they worked, some were really loose, some were really tight. There is the fact, I mean, this one does it as well, the whole casing kind of wobbles at the bottom. Then there's an issue, like they have this Boss style pedal, which I like. I actually like this sort of design more than the switches. But you would not be able to replace the battery at a gig in the dark because of the way that you have to try and open this, and I'll demonstrate that later. It's demonstrated before. It's an absolute fuck around, right? It is not an easy way to do it. I don't know why they didn't just, if they copied Boss, why didn't they just copy the good parts of Boss as well? Which brings me to another thing that I've never mentioned about what the problem I have with Behringer is that they are blatant copiers. Blatant fucking copiers, right? The one guy actually said it, well, it's literally exactly the same electronics as a Tube Screamer or a DS1, you know, if you buy the Behringer counterparts. Now, I'm sorry, but that's not a good thing. That's a fucking bad thing. Why would you perpetuate somebody making exact copies of something? If that's true and you believe that to be true, right? Why the fuck would you want to give this company more money, especially on a product that is a blatant ripoff of somebody's intellectual property. So you can save some money. I mean, what kind of moral fucking compass have you got to say, well, it's fine, I'm going to buy fucking Behringer because, you know what, I can get a tube screamer which costs £100 for 20, and it's an exact fucking ripoff. Now, we're not talking about, I have a real issue with copying tone, I really do. Legally, it's not possible to flip and counter that. But when you actually believe, it might be true or not, I don't really actually give a shit. But if you actually believe that this is an exact copy, electronic-wise, of the pedal that is more, and you deliberately buy this, you're an asshole, right? You just are, right? People spend a lot of time and R&D and money and resources to design electronics for their pedals, for their amps, for whatever, and then you just buy the cheap shit and basically do them out of all their hard work. Legally, there's a problem in this case as well. So, and I'm not gonna go down this argument. You cannot copyright a tone, we all know that, but you can copyright a schematic. Okay, right? Thank you. So I'm ranting again. I really didn't want to, but anyway. So here's the twist in the story. So I had a problem with every single Overdrive Behringer pedal that I bought in the past, and that's why I got rid of them all. Even though I loved the sound of the Overdrive Distortion, the hiss made it unusable for some of the things I was doing with it. So it was like, fuck it. Now, ironically, I actually preferred the Boss and the Behringer version to the Boss version, because it's a copy of the Boss, has the same one where you have like this blend between Overdrive and Distortion. I thought that the Behringer one I had sounded better because I literally had both at the same time, and I sold the Boss before I sold the Behringer. Eventually, some of the things I was doing, it meant that it was a pointless pedal for me because I was never going to use it because of the hiss it introduces, and I sold it. So to go back to the story, because I made this video and I got this flack, and I wanted to see if I'm still on the right track, I went and bought this one again. And lo and behold, this one's actually pretty nice. The knobs are all exactly the same tightness. There's no looseness, there's no wobble. It doesn't have any hiss at all. It's dead quiet, which surprised me. So either they fixed something in their electronics or in their buffer, or I was just very unlucky with all of the other ones I had. I don't really care which one it is. All I know is that this one actually seems to be completely okay. And that's another thing with Behringer that I've noticed over the years, and that goes across the whole range, is that some of them are just duds, and that's probably a result of cheap manufacturing processes or bulk manufacturing processes. The other twist to the story is that this one doesn't sound as good as what I have in my memory of the one I had before, how it sounded. Which, again, could be entirely just my bad memory. So I might be entirely wrong, it might have sounded exactly the same, but in my head, this one sounds different. The previous one, what I liked about it so much is when you had it in that sweet spot just between the overdrive and distortion, it was more like a really nice full warm distortion. This one is kind of crispy, kind of like as if there's hardly like a DS1, right? Really kind of top endy, brittle. Apologies. I find this doesn't have that character that the previous one had. This one also has a bit of wool in it. The moment that you put too much drive on it and you go too much into the distortion, there's a lot of wool happening in the background. It's not very pleasant, in my opinion, my taste. But what we're going to do next is went on my rant. Let's do some sound samples, and I'll show you some of the tones of this thing. Anyway, that'll come next. Right, we're back with the pedal. So here's the controls. As you can see, right, here's the clean tone. So this is drop C, just in case you're interested. Fairly hot pickups. They're sitting at about 13-14K on the bridge. So anyway, so here you have the level, obviously the tone, the drive, and then the mode. And as you can see, you've got overdrive and distortion, and you blend it basically. So overdrive, and then you start blending. So see what I mean? It gets kind of crispy at the top. It's not fuzz crispy, it's kind of just crispy. Also, when you turn the drive up, it kind of gets ugly, woolly. Again, in my opinion, not a nice woolly. The more you go back to the overdrive, the better it sounds. So my favorite setting is to actually dial it back a bit, tone just over the 12 o'clock position, dial the drive back a bit, and have this mode just before 12. So I have also, so what I've got there, it's going, this is the first in line, then it goes into the Blackstar HD Duo, which I'm now going to boost because it's got a valve high gain channel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the drive down, tone up, get some volume going. So this is the high gain channel, it's full on, that's why it's buzzing. That's the HD Duo. So now we can boost it. I've just switched over to the crunch channel on the HD Duo. That's it by itself. Basically what I'm trying to illustrate, it works as a boost on a crunch channel but not on a high gain channel. I think there's too much wool in this and too much gain in this to be an effective boost pedal on a high gain channel, but I think on a crunch channel, to give it a bit of say when I go from a crunch rhythm to a lead, I think this works. That's it for some sound samples. So just to be clear, I did put some reverb over the top in post. Otherwise everything was pretty much straightforward, because I wanted you to hear what the pedal sounded like. Just a bit of reverb because the distortion on this is very dry, really dry and crisp. So it needs a little bit of something, you know what I mean? So there you go. Next piece, I'm going to delve a bit deeper into this goddamn pedal. I want to see how this is made. I might break it and therefore lose my 20 quid, but what you gonna do? All in the name of entertainment, right? Right, welcome back. So let's see if we can disassemble this little mofo. Anyway, first thing I want to show you, which is something that I really find odd, is like, so it has the same kind of pedal and the battery compartment is under here, and it has these, instead of like the Boss that has the little screw that you unscrew and lift it open, this has like a little tabs here, little notches that you need to push in to be able to open it. And this is the thing that I mean, it's like if you're copying the Boss mechanism, why not make it easier? Because you actually need something to push these things in to be able to, Jesus Christ, see what I mean? It's just a fuck around. So here's the little rubber thing that pushes onto the on off switch, and these are the little tabs that you need to push in. Now you try and put this back together again in the dark, man, no freaking chance. I'm not even okay, no, I'm not gonna do it now. Anyway, let's go further. I want to do this fast because I've got better things to do. Or do I? I don't know anymore. Thanks to COVID. Now, the reason I'm opening this up is because I want to just see a few things. I hope you can see that. Apologies for my breathing here. I'm trying to keep the mic close, and at the same time I'm still recovering from COVID. Thankfully I had it very mild, probably thanks to the jabs, but I don't know. Okay, are these different from those? Yes, they're short. Okay, trying to remember that. Right. Oop, oop. Okay, there's like a little, must be grounding because this is metal. So that must be like a grounding thing. Yep, it wants the knobs off. I'll turn these in. Do they come out? Is there another? I think these knobs need to come off. Yes, they do. Well, this is a serious amount of plastic, folks. All right, let's see. Okay. There is a thin plastic case around the electronics. There's a thin plastic case around the electronics. There's fuck all shielding whatsoever. Like fuck all, right? The jacks are mounted on the PCB. And the jacks are mounted on the PCB. The PCB is mounted by 3 shitty little screws. So this whole thing, I mean, this is not going to take much, right? This is not going to take much of a beating. Simple as that. But my biggest concern is like, if you know it's all plastic and you look after it, it'll probably be fine for years, right? That's not the biggest deal. But what bugs me the most is that there's no shielding whatsoever. I don't know why these screws are like that. Should I do this? Let's do it. The plastic's coming out. So I want somebody to tell me again that, look, things can be cheap, right? That's not, I don't have a problem with cheap. So there is no shielding whatsoever. And that might explain the noise. Wow, okay. Now I'm just gonna rebuild it again, see if it switches on. I suppose it's a good idea. I mean, you can see why this is 20 pounds, right? I don't mind that. Honestly, this is not my concern. I really don't mind it being 20 pounds. I really don't mind it being plastic. I really don't mind it having no shielding. I really don't mind any of that. It is what it is. It works. How the fuck am I going to get that shit in there? Ah, yes. I've not magnetized these ends. There we go. So I don't have an issue with any of this, because if you know what you're buying, so be it, right? I have a problem with trying to make out that there aren't better options. That's my problem with this whole story. This is why I'm making such a palaver about it. Alright, now which ones were the short ones? Oh shit. That's the short ones, that's the long ones, okay. Fine, got it. So anyway, there's your proof. No shielding at all. And I think that most pedal builders would agree with me that shielding is fairly important. I mean, you have the wrong kind of light in your room or in a club or in the studio, and you will have nothing but hum in this. I guess I don't have any hum because I think I don't have anything else but LEDs left in this house. And I've got a fairly decent power supply. Maybe that's why I don't have any issues with this. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. There you go. Oh, I put this through the wrong way. Fuck. Ach, you master bus, man. Ah, fuck. This is probably not a good idea to put this back this way, but I can't be bothered. You will not do this in a... in... Okay, there you go. Thank you for watching this mess. So I rest my case. So for the person who said that is an exact copy of a Boss, I fucking doubt it's an exact copy of the Boss. More importantly, there's one massive difference between the Boss pedal that this is modeled on. And that is that the Boss pedal has a fucking metal encasing, and therefore the electronics are shielded. Which makes a massive difference, depending on the scenario that you're in. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.